Welcome to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. I'm your host, Fabian motherfucking Ojeda, and I don't know shit, but that's okay. All right, let's get this shit started. Thank you everybody for listening to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. Hope you all enjoyed episode number 115. But we're back with a brand new guest today. I'm excited to bring to the show for the very first time of the Rico Podcast, right? Mr. Richard Aviles. You go by Rico or Richard?
I go by many names, my man, but Rico's just fine. Richard is what my homies call me, so you can call me Rico. You can call me Rico. You can call me Rico or Richard. I like you. You're pretty cool, Fabian. You're cool in my book.
Well, I'll get to choose. I'll choose Rico sometimes and Richard other times. There we go.
Plus, your name is a very famous name in Puerto Rico.
Is it?
Yes. Ojeda is the name of someone who is a very famous interviewer in Puerto Rico, Señor Ojeda. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't. I always wondered because I don't hear too many Ojedas here in LA, and every time I find one, they're like, "Are you related?" I'm like, no, we're not related. Maybe somewhere down, in the distance, but we're not related. But I'll check it out. He's what does he do, like for news and stuff like that?
I'll check it out real quick. I'll send my sister used to work at Telemundo because my family's still on the island.
Okay.
And I think he was God, I can't remember right now, but I used to watch like his stuff. What was it? Luis Francisco Ojeda is a well-known Puerto Rican television, radio, and reporter and host for his aggressive style of interviewing. There it is right there, Mr. Ojeda.
I can be aggressive. Yeah.
He's very I like aggressive sometimes.
Now, most of the time laid back, but we could get there. We could get there, right? Get enough, get enough of that fuck me up juice in us, and anybody can get aggressive.
Anybody, man. I think aggression is a very natural instinct of people. The thing is you have to learn how to control it, and you have to know when you should be aggressive and when you should just not be aggressive. That's one thing I learned from jiu-jitsu personally.
Yeah, hey, while we're on that subject, your buddies with the other podcast was Poppy, right? The comedian
Danny. Yeah, my boy Danny. Shout out to Danny Gonzalez from the Danalize. Yeah. He set up my studio.
Okay. That's why it sounded a bit familiar. I'm like, wait, Puerto Rican jiu-jitsu, funny guy. I'm like, you sound almost like Poppy the comic. Yeah, I talked to him a while back too. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, Danny is gonna be someday. Danny's gonna be huge in the comedy scene. Like, I have faith that Danny. You'll look at this interview 10, 20 years from now, and Danny will be selling out stadiums. Like, nice. I'm 100% sure on that. He's just one of those guys, man. He's just one of those guys. He just has to get out of the environment he's in. He's going to start doing way better. Like, I love that dude. He's in Florida right now. He's also a voice actor.
Really?
Yeah, Danny's unpaid. Like, most people don't know this because it's recent, but I'm also I've gotten gigs as a voice actor too as of recently, thanks to our coach Heath Martin.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, it's like a different world there. I never really hear about, Like, I know that there's been some voice actors you can distinctly tell who they are, right? Even back in the 90s, right? There was always this one lady that did all the voices for all the little boys and girls, like Rugrats and shit like that. And I'm like, I know who she is. Like, I know exactly who she is, but I can't tell you her name.
Well, I got into voice acting because what I'm known for is for being an interpreter. I'm a certified Spanish interpreter and a translator. That's my note to fame pretty much. And it just made sense because voice acting was something I wanted to do since I was a little kid,
Yeah.
So it was one of those things that I was like, this makes sense. And I got introduced to Heath Martin through Steve Joyner. And then we just went from there. It's a lot of work. You have to really be careful with your voice. But a lot of those skills transfer from interpreting for me Because when you do like some high level stuff in interpreting, consistently, you have to like take care of your voice, your vocal cords. You have to be able to like talk for like a certain amount of time. So there's a lot of little ins and outs that interpreting and voice acting, like, they're very familiar. I don't know if you've ever had an interpreter on your show before, but that's yeah. So whatever you want to know about interpreting, I'm your man.
Yeah, with the voice acting, I'm kind of curious too, though, is if, like, are you okay? So is it your natural voice that you're like putting out there, or are you putting on like a caricature?
Well, you're acting in essence, and again, I've only been doing voice acting for 6 or 7 months, and I've been very blessed to already have a gig as an anime character, which unfortunately I can't tell you much more than that because of NDAs.
Yeah,
And the company that it's with, I can't unfortunately talk about it. I can tell you that I do play myself pretty much, but I play a character also. So it's a character that pretty much he's a veteran that teaches kids classes, and he gets caught doing some illegal stuff. And then pretty much like you see the evolution of the character, and it's like very me. So it's like very, very me. So I've done some other stuff for free where I pretty much like I change my voice, or like I'll change into like a deeper tone voice, Like if you listen to the intro of the podcast, it's me, Danny, and Eric. Like it's like Rico Podcast. Bring your friends. That's Danny that says that last part, and that took about like 30 takes just to get it right. So voice acting is a very new world to me. I wish I had more, but hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it kind of does there, because I've always wondered if it's just like one of those things where, you heard yourself do a voice one time and you're like, wait, I can do this and it's funny. I can do this over and over again, or if it's one of those things where it's more your natural voice, or you're just kind of, or you're slightly tweaking your natural voice a little,
It depends. It depends. Like, for example, like I do a lot of practice reads like every day because it's what Heath recommends. And I have like a system for everything that I do, like including jujitsu, writing, comedy. I have a system, right? And if I'm not working, I'm training. Like I operate on the basis, because I'm in a position that I have the time to do that. I operate on the basis of, if you're not working every day, then you need to be training every fucking day for at least an hour. I'm sorry. I don't know if I can cuss in here. I apologize
you
for
can
that
cuss all you want, man. It started off with the fuck.
All right, cool.
That shit in every episode. Yeah.
So, God, I lost my train of thought there. I'm so sorry.
If you're not working, you're training. Yeah.
So, for voice acting, one of the things that we do is that Heath has me do is, hey, man, every day you're going to take a script and you're going to do an ABC, right? An ABC on a line is where you change the intonation, right? Like, for example, Aquafina, the best water there is. Aquafina, the best water there is. Aquafina, the best water there is. Like, you have 3 different ways of saying it, right? And for me, that comes naturally because as an interpreter, I emulate like people's inflection and stuff like that, especially in court interpreting, which we can get into that shortly. But for me, it's more of learning and it just becoming second nature. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing I've learned from voice acting, is that there's a lot of like right place, right time. But at the same time is, do you have the skills that we need right fucking now? Because those are fat checks, and those fat checks means a lot of work. So yeah, man, hopefully that deals with that. Cause I'm not, come back to me like another year and I guarantee you I'll have some shit under my belt we can talk about more, man.
For sure. Want to jump real quick into the jiu-jitsu stuff, man. I enjoy, combat sports, watch all the MMA on TV, boxing. I wrestled for a good amount of time, didn't dabble too much in jiu-jitsu. I did, with the MMA kind of incorporated a little, but what's your involvement in jiu-jitsu right now? How deep into it are you?
So I'm under CTA, the Kyotera Association. which for the people listening to and your fans, if you don't know who Caio Terra is, it's Caioterra. He's a very well-known figure in the jiu-jitsu scene. He is dubbed like the Nicholas Tesla of jiu-jitsu. That's the level that Caio Terra has. And he's a very, very tiny person. I think he fights like 130, 140, maybe 150 sometimes. But that's who I'm with. I've been in that association for 9 years, but I've been training jiu-jitsu for 12. And I currently hold the rank of purple belt under Brian Stubner, which that's like the third level. You got white, blue, purple, brown, black. And then from black, that's a whole nother world, because there's a whole nother requirements for that. And it's like some people, like I will probably never see anything above a black belt. Not probably, I will never see anything above a black belt. Because you got to be like in the game for like 50 plus years, you know. I don't foresee myself making it past 80, so that's 60. So but it's good, man. It's good.
It's really interesting, I think, with like certain martial arts, like you get the little kid ones, right? Like karate and to some extent taekwondo, right? And they get belt after belt after belt after belt, right? And I remember even thinking like some of these kids in school who gain the confidence, which great, they gain confidence. I love seeing kids gain confidence and feeling like they can handle themselves, take care of themselves. But this is a false confidence, right? Where they would get the belts and just get belt after belt after belt because their parent paid for it, and they still didn't know how to defend themselves. They didn't know how to fight, and that would always kind of like, I wouldn't laugh at it, but I'd just be like, Jesus Christ, like, come on, like, give the kid a break,
So the problem, I can't answer that actually, because I know guys that do taekwondo and also do jiu-jitsu. And if you followed UFC and stuff like that, there's been taekwondo moves that have worked, spinning elbows, spinning kicks. If someone hits you with a fucking elbow, like that's a bad day. So the problem with a lot of people when they start martial arts, right? Because I can't speak for other martial arts. I can talk about jiu-jitsu because I've been doing it for so long and I love it and I train every fucking day, The problem is that people think that martial arts are a one-time sort of solution, right? If you're going to train martial arts, it's a lifestyle. It's not about, if you're a competitor, then my hat's off to you. I trained with the competition team for about 3 to 4 years, and I've been in the military. I've been in the army. And I've trained for competitions in the army. I've trained for boards in the army, and let me tell you, it is not fun being in a competition team of any kind, whether it's taekwondo, whether it's whatever. It's very, 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 very it requires a lot of your attention, and the problem is that people think that once they reach a certain level, they can do whatever. But the reality is that that's not true. The reality is that, yeah, you'll get some confidence, like you said, and they have this false sense of reality. I wouldn't say a false sense of confidence. It's just a false sense of reality. Is that, number one, you should never really want to fight. Like, you really, like, if you talk to any legal attorney, okay, and you are a colored belt in jiu-jitsu, you've wrestled, you've boxed, you've done Muay Thai or something, you out of everyone, not you specifically, but to the people listening, you really shouldn't try to get into a fight. You really shouldn't. Number one, I'm the type of person that I believe that violence is meant to kill. And this is something that I have yet to have many people argue with me, is like, in a sports setting, like, we're literally trying to kill each other. The only difference is we have an agreement that once the ref stops me, I get off of you. But do you know what would happen to someone's brain if I held a rear naked choke for 5 minutes? They start losing brain cells. Their brain swells, and then they start dying, or they die. That's the thing, is like, we literally, and this is a joke that I always say, is like, we're simulating murder, but I like you and respect you enough that it's like, I'm not going to let go. Taekwondo is the same thing. Like, if I catch you, any sport, any contact sport, right? Boxing, which I love watching boxing, but I don't like punching people. It's just a thing that I have where it's like, I'll kick the fuck out of you. I just don't like hitting you. I don't feel like I'll elbow you, like I'll hit you with an elbow, but I just don't feel like I've seen a lot of guys in the I've seen countless guys in the military get in fights, punch someone in the face, and then they fucking break their hand. And then, okay, can't use that hand to fight. Now what the fuck are we going to do? You know what I'm saying? So like for me, if your kid gets a black belt at any age, there's a million things that we could say, right? Like we said earlier, it's like it's a false sense of confidence. Well, just understand one thing. Your kid's only 10, 12, whatever. There's more for him to do.
Right. Absolutely.
There's way more for him or her to learn. It's like in jiu-jitsu, like I have started incorporating like strike setups, right? Because jiu-jitsu, for the people that don't know, Brazilian jiu-jitsu is a martial art that was created by the Gracie family. And this is debatable. I believe the mid 1920s. Some people say mid 1910s. Okay. The thing is that what happened was that their fathers, the father Gracie's like original fathers, right? Which I won't get into names. You guys can fucking Google this. Will traveled to Japan and then brought it back, and they started teaching their kids because they wanted their kids who were smaller in frame and smaller in size to be able to have a fighting chance against a larger, stronger opponent. And listen to what I said there: longer, bigger, and stronger, not technical. Because if you add power to technique, like you seem like a guy that you have like strong hands, and I can tell by your wrists and whatnot, you have like a really set of strong hands. Like if I'm gonna fight you, I have to figure out a way to, first of all, not get hit. Second of all, take you to the ground. After I take you to the ground, pass your legs, because guess what? If I drop you to the ground, right, but you kick me, you land a lucky kick on my chin, that's game over. You know what I'm saying? Like, how many times have you seen a match in the UFC where it's like they get hit right on the spot, man, because they had the setup, and that's it, So in jiu-jitsu, you got to pass the legs, pass the hip. Once I'm past the hip, then I control, and I either try to mount, which is I stay on top of you to connect you to the ground. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to put pressure on you. I'm trying to connect you to the ground. Or I take your back, which the back is the most dominant position in any sport. Why? Because you cannot see me.
Right.
And a lot of people don't train with their eyes closed to like feel around, like, oh, he's shifting his movement over here, he's doing this. That's why jiu-jitsu is so good, because it is a problem-solving martial art that we can go 100 miles an hour. We can go really fast and really hard, and I don't need to hurt you. But if I do want to hurt you because I fear for my life or for the life of another person, then and here's something you'll hear a lot, is like, why doesn't he eye gouge him? Is like, so I'm gonna do jiu-jitsu, or I'm gonna do taekwondo, or I'm gonna do boxing, or I'm gonna wrestle you, and I'm gonna like punch you in the dick and like gouge your eye out and
all the cheap shit.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, dude, yeah. Like imagine you as a wrestler, bro. If you got on top of me and I didn't know shit, and then you just start like poking my fucking eye, like I'm fucked. Like, yeah, that's not wrestling, but it's like, who gives a fuck? Like that's the thing, man. But for me, jiu-jitsu has been, here's the thing, is I don't ever really I try not to talk bad about other things because I don't know, because there's always an exception, right? Like there's shitty people, there's shitty jiu-jitsu, right? There's people who have shitty jiu-jitsu. Like me, for example, I feel like I have shitty jiu-jitsu, and it does not matter how many years I train. I go to a Kyotera seminar or insert whatever black belt, and I'm just like, I know nothing, and I suck, and I'm gonna go cry myself to sleep. But the thing is like, it's ever going, man. That's the beauty of it. It just doesn't end.
Yeah. I mean, I guess very briefly, I was like, this is interesting because it's a different kind of grappling than wrestling, because I remember getting in there and thinking like, I've got a high enough, skill set with wrestling where I'm comfortable going in blind to a jiu-jitsu session because, at least I know my balance. At least I know, my positioning and everything. But there were some times where yes, I was able to use my wrestling and stay strong. And there were other times where I would just, shoot in and I'd be stuck. I'd be, and stuck in some sort of choke,
When you gonna start training, Fabian?
Oof. Those days are long.
No.
I don't want to say long gone, but they're gonna take a while to get back to, because my health right now is in dire straits, man. I'm just barely baby stepping my way back to, trying to get back on to simple things like walking around the block. I really suffered a lot of during pandemic and everything, and I don't mean to make that an excuse, but I've said it on a podcast before. It's like I really, the weight gain has been tremendous, and just really the outcome of that has where you don't get to see where for a while, you didn't get to see anybody, didn't get to go outdoors, didn't get to go to gyms and stuff like that for a long time. It really messed me up. So otherwise I'd love to, man. That's something.
Where are you at?
In California, in LA.
Oh, okay, that's why. Okay, I was gonna say we had shit. I worked and everything.
Okay.
During the whole pandemic, we were super careful, like stupid careful. Like I had Ozium in my car. I would Lysol everything. Oh, we got a little bit of an issue there. Hold on. You hear me there, brother?
Yep.
Okay. We obviously, and this obviously I do this, like I'm a germaphobe. Most people don't know this, except like actually I've never said that on a podcast. Now that I think about that, I kind of regret that. Most people don't know it, but I'm a germaphobe because when I was in the military, when you're in the military, there's jiu-jitsu, right? Since we're talking about martial arts. And first of all, by the way, I'm glad that you're doing better. Like for real. And I'm glad that you're responsible enough to say, nah, man, like I just got to get back out there, but I'd love to see you on the mat sometime. I think you would benefit. And you're in the capital of jiu-jitsu, my man. Cali, LA, bro, you have the highest level of jiu-jitsu and personal trainers around you, that they're going to see a guy like you walk in and they're going to hear that story. Because, dude, you tell me that story and I'm like, I want to get you in the fucking gym. Like once a week. Let's do once a week and then do twice a week. And then we're going to make you into a fucking monster, Fabian. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make you into a monster, bro. Like, I'm telling you, it'll come. It'll come. But you got to get like, I actually gained about 130 pounds.
Ooh.
130? Yeah, about 130, 140 pounds. I'm down almost 100. But
wow.
But it wasn't the pandemic for me. It was just a custody battle.
Yeah, that'll do it, right?
Well, man, is you learn. Here's something I learned, man, is I stressed a lot of things that I should have never stressed.
Mm-hmm.
And like you really learn what should you stress about and what you should not stress about. Mm-hmm. And I felt like jiu-jitsu had taught me that, but that going through that experience really really nailed home with it. And to be honest with you, man, I'll tell you a story I haven't told anybody, by the way.
All right.
Sorry, my cigar keeps going out. You smoke cigars? Oh no, you can't.
No.
You can't. I'm so sorry. That was rude of me.
No,
I love cigars, man. It's like the best thing, dude. I've been smoking cigars since I was 20, so it's a thing for me. Started in Iraq, actually. That's a funny story. We can talk in a little bit. Man, when I got my purple belt in jiu-jitsu, it really like helped me get through like some of the hardest times of my life. Like, to be honest, I'll never tell this to my black belt, and he doesn't even listen to my show. But dude, I remember when he wrapped that belt around me, it barely fucking fit. And he looked at me. Yeah, dude, like I was crying too. Like I'm crying like a bitch. And he said, "To new beginnings." And dude, I went home and I was like, this fucking belt's gonna fit someday. And now it fits, and like I'm almost down to 100. I wanna get down. I gotta lose like another 11 pounds. So I'm probably gonna do the whole sober October shit. this year, even though I made fun of it other years. Yeah, I made fun of it other years, and then this year, me and my wife were talking about it, and I was like, you know what? No cigars, no I don't smoke cigarettes, so it's like it's not. Cigarettes just smell horrible to me.
Nah.
No edibles, no nothing. Meds, obviously, if you take medication, which anybody listening, man, if you're on meds, take your meds. Take your meds and drink a lot of water. But yeah, man, we're probably gonna do that this year just to see how it goes.
Mm.
Just to see, it's one of those things that it's like there's no hurt in trying it. I used to make fun of people for it, but now I'm gonna do it. But yeah, man, that's what's up. What you want to talk about, boss?
Yeah, just real quick, want to get in there about your podcast. The Rico Podcast, right? I think when you and I were speaking with our mutual buddy there, Steven, we were kind of talking about hey, what's your podcast like? What's your podcast like? And I just like mine's very one stop shop basically. It's no real like what do you call it theme or anything like that. It's just let's get some cool people in here. Let's hear their stories. Let's see who resonates with what. And that's been my approach to it all, and that's what keeps it fun. I feel like if I were to have a certain structure and I'd have to have some sort of theme, it would not be as fun for me because I'd kind of limit it to what to what the structure is. But just having conversations with people, that's my thing. I can pull anything from anywhere.
I think you have a recurring theme. Actually, I would disagree with you, and I'll tell you why. Right.
All right.
I listen to first of all, you do a very good job of listening, which is the number one thing that I noticed. Number two, like if I went to I think it was your Apple podcast, which I pulled it up, and
okay.
you have a theme of like, hey, this is who I fucking am. I don't really know anything. I'm really dumb. He's like, but that's cool because, I'm here to pretty much listen to what you got to do. And like, dude, I think you have a really good marketing thing where it's beautiful. Number one, you have some ratings. You probably have good numbers. You're pretty consistent with how many episodes you come out with.
Mm-hmm.
And the interviews are like really good. Like I listened to Larry's interview, and you got Larry to talk for more than 40 minutes. So I don't know if anybody's ever told you that's really good. And you didn't really ask a lot of cookie cutter questions. Obviously with someone like Larry, you got to ask like, hey, what was it like for this? What was this like?
Mm-hmm.
But you asked about his book. I don't know. I don't recall if you asked him about his art.
No, I didn't. No art.
Bro, you got to listen. Oh, dude, you got to have him back.
He's going to come back. He's going to come back. Yeah.
Back. Nice. We're going to have him as a recurring guest on our show for every month. Nice. Every month. I love Larry. Me and Larry text each other memes and shit like that, which he never replies. He just sees it, which is funny. But he's a really cool guy, man. But your show, number one, has a really good vibe. Like, I just wanna say that, man, because I know as like dudes, we don't get a lot of fucking compliments. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because everything's like, yeah, you should be doing good. But to those people, suck my left nut. You have a really good way of like interviewing. You listen very well. Obviously, for if there's no video, like you have a background very professionally, the same way that I do. Like, dude, you do amazing stuff. Like, I think you do have a theme, and the theme is, hey, I just want to hear your story, which is so funny because that's exactly like what my show is about. My show is, I don't really consider myself a very interesting person because 90% of the things I've done make people very uncomfortable. Like, people always ask me about jujitsu. They always ask about my time in the army, but no one ever asked me about my interpreting stuff. So I started a podcast after doing like a lot of interviews. And I was like, oh, I want to start one of these. This seems like fun. And funny story, Kevin Farley, Chris Farley's brother, was the one who told me I should start a podcast after I opened it up for him at a show that we brought him down here. And we just started like talking to friends that we had, like GK King, who is a huge comic in LA. And he's up and coming and shit like that. Like he's G King is awesome. He has this skit of like take care of Gerald, which is like when a black guy is with his chick and she pays for everything, you always see those guys like hugging the chick from behind, and they're
Yeah.
like that'll be $14.99, sir. Yeah, yo, baby, you got this, right? She's like, oh, I got it, baby, I got it, and he's just hugging the chick from behind, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like
Uh-huh.
that's his thing. So shout out to Giovanni King, man. He's awesome. He's a good homie. We had Tommy Chong, which
Yeah.
we're gonna have again in a few days. Which Fabian should definitely we're gonna connect you with them to
Cool,
see
man.
if yeah, I think Tommy likes to be interviewed, and we've sent him to a lot of places that they did a great job interviewing him, and he's a cool person to talk to.
Hmm.
Like for some reason, every single person that we've sent them, I always get the same call back is, man, he just knew exactly what I needed to hear. And he
Mm.
just told me that. Happened with Danny. Happened with me. Happened with the Dorkening guys. Happened with a lot of people, man. He just knows like what you need to hear.
Hmm.
So he's a really cool dude. And we had Michael Wirt, who is a samurai historian. If you watch Age of Shoguns or Age of Showdown, something like that on Netflix, he is the samurai historian.
Mm.
And we've had other friends like UFC fighter Rolly Delgado, Rolly the Crazy Cuban Delgado.
Oh, nice.
He's a good friend of mine. Rolly has an academy in Arkansas where he teaches jujitsu and wrestling, and he coaches MMA guys that are in the UFC.
Hmm.
So we just started talking to these people, and then it just like I didn't think we would be where we're at, where we get as many thousands of downloads as we get a month
Hmm.
in this short amount of time, because we've been podcasting for a year and some change. But we've done a great job at marketing it. We've done an okay job, I feel like. People say great, I say okay.
Hmm.
Because we could have done flyers and stuff like that. But it was one of those things that we just did it with very minimal stuff. Like in the beginning, we were recording with our phone and like a shitty computer, and it was still, dude, like if you don't listen to Tommy's interview. It's so bad. It's so like more work, like it's so bad.
Uh-huh.
But we had one mic, and we had a computer from 2011,
Oh, man.
and we were still pumping like 3 or 4 interviews a week, and then the computer died, and we I, I don't know if it's ever happened to you where like you have like a technical difficulty. Like earlier, you couldn't hear me, but
Uh,
then it like, dude, like my heart sinks. Like I'm like, oh shit, no, like this is gonna fuck it up.
uh-huh.
But man, I've come to realize that a lot of people are like, nah, man, like that's cool to see that those things happen, how you recovered.
Hmm.
That's the important thing. Like you recovered beautifully. You were like, hey, I couldn't hear you. Could you repeat that? No, like, oh my God, like, dude, I'm like that. I'm the oh my God guy. And my co-host Eric is like, shut the fuck up, bitch. Like, calm down. Go sit in the corner. Get some coffee.
It's like, just like to roll with it, see what happens and just roll with it.
Yeah, but you roll with it, but you roll with it very intelligently. Like even asking me questions here, I've noticed that you're like, well, hey, while we're talking about that, boom, not like you don't like look and go, oh, let me go to this. You're like, oh, well, hey, I wasn't gonna ask that first, but because you have sort of an idea, you obviously did your homework on me and stuff like this. You have a semblance of an idea, but you are very good at like, oh shit, he said this. Let me keep him on track.
Mm.
I don't know if anyone's ever told you that, but dude, I'm telling you, like shit.
I appreciate it, man. That's kind of like, if I'm ever writing something, that's kind of how I do it too. It's kind of pull from like, just like I was saying with blah, 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 blah. Let me get you into blah, 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 blah. It's like you got to be able to segue things, segue, I think, makes for a smoother read or listen or whatever. Sometimes you just kind of have that word vomit. It doesn't work for everybody, you know,
Mhm.
like whether you're reading something or writing
True.
something or whatever. But um, I just like to try to segue things as smoothly as possible. That's all.
No, no, and you do a great job, man.
Thank you.
You do a great job. Like
Appreciate it.
it's pretty dope. But what else you got for me, brother? I know you got more for me.
Yeah, let's just listen to this interpreting thing, man. You keep talking about it, and I know it's important to you. And I want to know a little more because for me, my understanding is that it's something that's very sought after, right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
the times, like in schools, you'll need an official interpreter to do things. Sometimes they try to cheap you out and be like, "Oh, you're like a what do you call it? Like a teacher's aide. You can speak Spanish and English. Cool. Let's use you to interpret. But you're not supposed to do things like that.
No, that's actually number one. That's highly illegal.
Mm.
Number one, because if you look at Executive Order 13166, right, and I can pull that up. I know it by heart. Is that it lays out the foundation for anybody who receives federal grants and does some sort of work, and it specifically says it with the government.
Mm-hmm.
You have to provide qualified and or trained interpreters for LEPs, limited English proficient or limited English people.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard it both ways. I don't like limited English people. I like limited English proficiency myself.
There you go.
Because you may have an LEP that they can speak English to you, but do you want to go to a doctor when your first language isn't even like, dude, I don't even want to go to the doctor and I speak English and Spanish very well, and I don't understand half the shit that they're saying. Imagine you as a non-English speaker, right? Or a non-source language speaker. You go to a place and you're like, what the fuck? Like, I don't even understand what's happening. First of all, it's terrifying. That's the number one thing that I tell when I train an interpreter is try to be a problem solver. Like if when you walk into the room, like I have certain rules that I tell my people, like when you walk into the room, the first thing you want to identify is who is the LEP? Who am I here to talk for, right? Oh, that person? Cool. Once I identify that person, I raise my hand and I tell everybody to give me a second. I introduce myself in English and in Spanish. And then after that, I tell everybody a warning. Everything that I hear from here on out, I have to interpret. Todo lo que yo escuche de aquí en adelante lo tengo que interpretar.
Mm-hmm.
So that way there's no fucking confusion of, oh, why are you saying that? Don't do that. Don't interpret that. No. That's unethical, first of all. That's an ethics violation.
Mm.
You look at any entity that teaches interpreting at a high level, they tell you interpret everything. So if you're talking about how your husband laid down pipe last night, I'm probably gonna interpret that.
Hell yeah.
And it's happened, by the way. That's not a made up example. So to me, interpreting is very important because like I used to work human trafficking cases.
Mm.
And that's where, to me, like the level of importance to be a good interpreter and a translator. Because an interpreter, he interprets the verbal word, what you say.
Mm-hmm.
A translator does documents or the written word. So that's the main differences there.
For sure, man. So that could be really like if your interpreting is not so up to par, could really leave that investigation like vulnerable, right?
Yeah, man, you run the risk of if you and that's actually a really good question. Like if you don't know about something,
Mm-hmm.
don't do it, right? For like example, I am not a medical interpreter.
Mm.
I fucking hate dealing. Number one, I hate hospitals. I just hate hospitals because they just smell like death to me.
Mm.
I've said this before. I don't know what it is, where I got it from, but to me, a hospital smells like death is what it smells like. It just like when I walk through and I see all these people in the ER, it just fucking terrifies me. So that's why I don't do it. Number one. Number two, it's very technical. Like you have to understand a lot of shit, like a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Legal, you have to understand a lot of shit, but there's some sort of connection there. You know what I'm saying? Like me, I'm a legal interpreter. I'm a community interpreter. I'm an educational interpreter. I can explain, the tongdos. I can explain synonyms, synonymous. I can explain all that shit. But the moment you start saying, tell me the difference between a vein and an artery, I'm going to look at you and be like, huh?
Yeah.
So like, that's why it's important to know what you know, if that makes sense right there.
For sure. Well, man, I appreciate everything real quick. I do, unfortunately, since it's breaking the fourth wall here, since Sunday, have less time today, but I do appreciate you jumping on. Definitely wanted to have this conversation, for sure, and I'm glad you're able to join us, man. But real quick, anywhere that people can find you online?
Absolutely, my man. First of all, thank you for having me. It's really awesome, and I look forward to hearing about you 5 or 6 months from now, man. I really
Appreciate it.
do. I want to see you. I want to see you like get out there and go fucking get it, man. Go crush it. I know you
Yeah.
can do it in everything, in life and in weight,
Thank you, man.
weight loss and training in fucking anything you do, man. Because I like people with your vibe. You can find me on Facebook at Rico Podcast. It's all over Facebook. You can find me on TikTok at Richard Aviles 52. I'm trying to get to 10,000 followers. I'm at 5,900, so we'll see how that goes. And you can find our podcast everywhere on Apple, iTunes. If you really, really love us and you want me to be able to afford groceries, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/Rico Podcast. So yeah, help us start eating like real Frosted Flakes, not the fake shit that goes bad after 3 days.
Let's get them there, people. Everybody at home, I appreciate it. Thank you. Fuck you, and good night.
Subscribe to the Ignorance is Strength podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Like, follow, and share on Facebook and Instagram at Ignorance is Strength Podcast and on Twitter at The Ignorance Pod.